Hi, all. Welcome to week 3. I hope you all turned in your object essays. I'm excited to read them. Actually, let me talk about that first. I hope to have those done and back to you in a week. So yeah, I haven't actually started them yet because I've been preparing for this week's lecture and doing different things like that. But yeah, how that will work is you'll just log back into AggieMail and you should be able to see if I've graded it yet or not. There'll be side comments on it and a grade. Okay. Briefly, I feel like I need to actually talk about the grades too because, of course, Canvas is automatically calculating your grades for you. Remember that I grade on a different system than the percentage that's there. If you want an accurate depiction of where your grade is, actually, well, I can't do that. What you do is I would look at the final percentage that it gives there and times that by 5, and that will give you a number between 1 and 5. And then go back and look at the syllabus and look at how I actually delineate the grades, and that will give you a closer understanding of your grade than just the percentage it gives there. Percentage is really low, especially when I start grading your when I get your essays back to you, because I'm going to be giving a score between 1 and 5. Again, it will automatically on Canvas try and figure that into a percentage, and it will make it look like you're getting a worse grade than you actually are. So be sure to refer back to the syllabus and see how I actually do the grades, and don't trust what's there. Okay, yeah. So hopefully I'll get those done this week. I wanted to briefly talk about also the discussions that have been occurring. This week in particular was really good. I really appreciate what you're doing there. I'm purposely trying to stay out of it. I'm not getting in the mix there and really moderating necessarily because I haven't really seen a reason to yet. How I see me doing this is I'll occasionally, as I've done this week, go in there and leave my own comments too if I have something to say. But for the most part, I would rather you kind of do that on your own because the conversations are better if you're not worried about me being there and stepping on your toes. With that said, I do give you grades for it. Remember to get full credit on these. You need to originally post 150 words by Friday at midnight. And then respond to 3 of your peers by Sunday at midnight. And then if you do that successfully, you will have no problem getting full credit for these. So just make sure you're doing that. But yeah, like I said, the ones that you guys did this week were just great. I really appreciated them. They were really interesting. For this week, we're actually going to move on, and we're doing a new essay, which I'm really excited about. I think it's a fun essay. I have a lot of students like this one. In fact, if you kind of don't like the writing on the last one, I find that students either really like the object essay or really hate it. There's little variant between, and that's fine. I find that most of the time when students don't really like the first essay, they really like this second essay. And this essay is a tipping point essay is what I call it. And I get that term from Malcolm Gladwell, who you're going to read him very shortly. This essay, unlike the last essay that was mostly personally driven, this essay is actually it's closer to a history essay than a personal essay. And I noticed from your conversations occurring on the discussion board, and particularly this week, those of you who read Ben's essay and really liked it, many of you said something about liking to read histories or different things like that. Now is your opportunity to actually get in there and actually write some sort of history. Which is really good. Here's the assignment description that I've made up for you here. The 2 examples that I've given are both about my hometown. One is when my great-granddad stole the water from Emery County. If you're from Emery County, I'm sort of sorry. And the other one is when the whole town was placed on the National Historic Registry. It's a weird, gray place. In fact, I'm going to show you a picture really quick. Okay, this is a Google entry on Spring City's chapel. It's just basically that. And so this is one of the reasons why the whole town was placed on the National Historic Registry. We have this brilliant white oolitic stone that is what many of the buildings are actually made of down there. If you can even see the hills in the distance, I mean, the whole valley is kind of spread with this oolitic sediment, which is really bad for crops, but really good for building buildings. And so the buildings themselves are really beautiful. Yeah, I find my hometown really interesting. You probably don't because you're not from there, which is fine. But think about things that are actually important to you once again. I don't want you to try and guess what you think is important to me, but think about things that you're actually interested in and write about those things. My hometown is really important to me, actually, and so that's why I choose to write about it quite often. But don't get stuck in thinking just about geographic areas that you could write about. Okay. We're going to read lots of different examples of the tipping point essay, including what you're reading this week is an example of memes themselves in terms of the tipping point. Next week, you're going to read an essay about how clowns went from being cool and party favors to being really creepy. You're also going to read an essay about forced eugenics in the United States. I've had essays about bow ties. I've had essays about leopard prints. Lots of fashion essays. Actually, fashion works really well for this essay. I've had lots of music essays, which I particularly like. I'm going to actually give you a music example here in a minute. But I want you to pick something that you're actually interested in. Before you really go on, though, even in this lecture, I want you to go and read the reading, particularly the Gladwell reading. So if you haven't read it yet, just press pause, go read it right now. Here's some exit music for you. Okay, welcome back. Now, the reason why I wanted you to go read the Gladwell essay is because without it, I can't really discuss this essay. It's so dependent on you actually understanding what he's talking about to really understand this essay. So, especially because I'm going to use terms like virus, and I hope you know what that is now. If you don't, go back and read again the Gladwell essay, and it'll help you figure it out. But the aspects of the tipping point essay that you have to kind of demonstrate in your own essay are the ones that Gladwell discussed at length in his essay. And that is, you have to prove that it was contagious. You have to prove that these little things had major effects. And probably the most important one, even Gladwell himself actually says that it's the most important one, is... oh shoot, sorry, something's going wrong. Is that it is that it happens quickly. Okay, now a lot of students get kind of hung up on this idea of it happening quickly. Know that quick is a relative term, depending on the history of your actual chosen tipping point. Quick could be a decade, or quick could be a week. It just depends on how long your community's been around and what they've been looking at. If you look to the readings, you'll notice that we've got different ideas about time in them. In Josh Blotter's essay, which you're reading this week about memes, he talks about planking, and it took weeks for it to spread really quickly. Whereas in the essay about the clowns, we see that transformation took about a decade to really occur. So you just need to kind of gauge it out and see what you think is what you consider is relatively quick or short. So yeah, when you figure that out, then you'll be able to write your essay. Now, how I tell students to actually look for these things is to look at timelines in whatever your chosen history is. Okay, so let's say you wanted to pick yo-yos for some reason. I've actually had a student write about yo-yos. It worked pretty well. But what I would do is I would actually start by going to the Wikipedia page or something similar to it and kind of go through and look at it. Here we have right down here an actual kind of timeline of the contents of what's actually occurring here. or occurring on the Wikipedia page. Now look at these right around here. We can see that these are the bumps in the history of yo-yos. Okay, so it looks like a lot happened here with the Duncan era. The 1960s it resurged. Okay, either one of these, I bet you could narrow it down and actually discuss it as a tipping point. You could also, this to me, the rise of ball bearings sounds a bit like a virus, but maybe it's a tipping point itself. And it looks like the 1990s technological renaissance could also be considered a tipping point. Now, yeah, this is the best way I think to do it. What you're looking for is those big bumps in the history of whatever it is that you're interested in. Okay, for example, if we look back to my hometown, they went from having water or from not having water to having water. That's a big bump in the community that I came from. Conversely, as well, like if we look at we went from having tourists to not, or sorry, I keep on screwing that up. We went from not having tourists to having tourists. I could write an essay speculating about how that actually occurred. Okay, so in the next essay, what I'm actually going to do, we're going to look at some musical examples. So come back to that and be ready to look at that to kind of further flesh this out. Okay, I'll talk to you soon.